Welcome. Welcome back to Sonnie's Corner. And this week, and sounding like a broken record, let's again stay on subject matter because you know how I like tying everything together. Conservatives are once again surprised that American institutions are broken. In this case, the law itself, right? With the indictment of Donald Trump. Honestly, if I believed in things like white privilege, I would say that this is a perfect example, right? You get to pretend in this moment that you are just realizing how broken our system is. And because it is so outstanding, your lack of recognition of what your country has become, this is the government that we have. This is why we have the government that we have. Dare I say, the government you deserve. It goes back to the rant we did when we were talking about the good old days, right? And how all of these white conservatives want to go back to the good old days of America when it was all baseball and apple pie. Well, when that was the case, every trick being used on you right now was first tested on Black America. You didn't have to worry about it. You didn't have to pay attention again because it had little to no effect on you. But because it had little to no effect on you, doesn't mean that it was not happening. It means that when you turn a blind eye to the bastardization of the Constitution, you will be charged with living under those effects, the government that you deserve. The question becomes, what do you do next? The first step to every problem is first admitting that you have a problem, right? Now, your version of this reads, the problem is government is being weaponized against white conservatives. Really? That's what you're going with? See, you're not going to get any buy-in from Black America with that line of thinking. And Trump needs buy-in from Black America. See, this indictment may, quote unquote, may ensure that Trump gets the Republican nomination, but it is going to take a lot more to get him into the presidency. He cannot afford to barely win. He can't afford to just scrape by. He must win an overwhelming, undeniable victory, or you are going to get a repeat of 2016 on steroids. Trump must win in places that Republicans have not won in years, if not decades. So, here's my challenge to Donald Trump. I try to meet people where they are. So everyone told me, if he will listen to you, if you just tell him the truth, if you're just honest with him, he will listen to you. So that's what I did. When I went to the White House, I was the only Black conservative in the room to lay out an actual vision on how to move forward, on how to actually get a generational ideological change. I sat before you, Donald Trump, and I gave you facts. That approach didn't work. So now I have to use my own style, shall I say, become a little bit Trumpish. The only message you seem to understand is the message of ego or learning shit the hard way. So I want to match you at your ego with my challenge. You have to make a choice. Do you want the short-term ego boost of being a martyr, which is what your base wants to do, short-term ego boost of you being a martyr? Or Do you want the long-term ego boost of changing the course of America for generations to come? That's your decision. That needs to be the question you place in front of your ego. Now, from my observations, you are focused more on knocking out the Republican competition in the primaries, right? And that's completely understandable. Got it. Now, Bragg just made that a lot easier for you, right? Now you got, we can change direction. What you doing now? Okay. So now you need to broaden your base. It's the only decision you have, and you know it, right? Because you know what those establishment Republicans are going to do. So you have to grow your base. So let's switch to the other thing that, the other messaging that you seem to understand, and that happens to be shit that you learned the hard way, right? When you used your constitutional right to plead the fifth, you acknowledged that you were wrong about the system. You said, I used to believe that there was no need to plead the fifth. If you were innocent, you would be proven innocent. The system only works against the guilty. You acknowledged that you were wrong about the system. So when they went to pull that clip back up of you, it didn't have any sway. It didn't have any power. You weren't even called a hypocrite for it. A simple acknowledgement of, I learned that shit the hard way, holds a lot of weight. And that's the key to reaching the Black community. Acknowledge the shit that you had to learn the hard way. What was it like when everyone close to you was under the surveillance of the FBI and the DOJ? The entire federal bureaucracy. What was it like underneath that? When the weight and the force of the entire government came crashing down on you and your entire orbit. What was that like? Do you know that when Black people complain about systemic racism, one of the complaints is government using this force to take out our leaders? Sound familiar? See, this practice is not new. Do you know how many times the CIA, which is not supposed to operate on American soil, has been sent to directly interfere in Black America? I'm guessing that you don't know any of these things, but if you were to actually learn them, imagine the conversations you could have with Black America about shit we learned the hard way. What is it like when they target you with frivolous lawsuits and regulatory burdens, right? Regulatory violations. What is it like when they swamp you with those, costing you millions and millions and millions of dollars, along with millions of your actual time, energy, and effort and sanity to fight them? What is that like? How did that feel? Well, did you know that when Black people talk about systemic racism, one of the complaints is how government used lawsuits and regulatory violations to steal Black people's land? They would bankrupt the Black families under the weight of the federal, of their government, whether it be local, state, or federal, and then steal their property right from under them. Now, if you learn that little bit of history, right, imagine the commonality of some shit we learned the hard way that we could talk about. What was it like when FBI bursted into Mar-a-Lago to search through Barron and Melania's closet? Everything could have been handled with cooperation, but the enforcement wing of the executive branch was sent to convey a message straight from the judicial. And old, unused, quote unquote, laws still on the books that are never used against anyone else are suddenly being used against you. What does that feel like? Do you see where I'm going with this? Yes, because when black people talk about systemic racism, it includes being charged with crimes while others walk away with warnings. That falls under that exact same parameter. How does it feel when the feds can't get you, right? So state and local jurisdictions, they go and they try their hand at it. And potentially, you are set to face an all-progressive jury in an all-progressive state that hates you. Yep, you guessed it. Do you know that systemic racism also includes things that should be obvious, like self-defense? And they are charged when it should be obvious, self-defense. Why? Because progressives don't believe in self-defense. Imagine being in these jurisdictions. Or when it comes to gun laws, progressives don't believe in guns. So imagine how they load it up when you imagine. Think about being a black man in these situations and how you would feel about an all-progressive jury in an all-progressive state. I mean, do you understand the caliber of conversations you could have if these were the conversations you were having? How does it feel to have people saying that you are disqualified from the process because of your indictment? How does it feel knowing how loud those calls are going to become if in any of the other cases they are actually able to convict on a felony? You definitely would be disqualified at that point, wouldn't you? See, a lot of what Black America labels systemic racism directly mirrors the abuses that we are currently experiencing and seeing happen all over this country. It's just that when it happened to Black America, ours was a little bit worse because it was targeted just because of the color of our skin, and it stretched out over the course of, if I'm being generous, at least 120 years since progressivism has taken root in this country. An ideology that needs to be destroyed. The progressive system that you are seeing right now before your eyes has owned and operated Black areas in America 60, 70, 80, 90 years, depending on the area, the geography. Black Wall Streets have crumbled under its weight. The Black industrial class has crumbled under its weight. Black wealth has been demolished under its weight. The Black family was nearly destroyed. Black children being murdered under its weight. Black men criminalized and demonized under its weight. And as these things began to crumble, American institutions began to crumble with them. If they could get away with these abuses at the local level, why couldn't they get away with it at the state level? If they can get away with it at the state, why couldn't they get away with it at the federal? And you see this progressive disease metastasize across our entire country. And these are all lessons we are forced to learn the hard way together. Or have we? Have we learned those lessons? Now, if you don't mind, indulge me for just a second. Let me insert a few lessons that you should have learned from your Black outreach the last go around, but I am about 100% certain that you didn't learn these lessons and no one around you has brought them to your attention. So I would like to be one that can offer you something and not just criticize. What in the hell do you have to lose is a BS slogan. It's a BS messaging. It is an insult to our intelligence, especially after our latest conversation about all of the shit that we've learned the hard way. Yeah, what does Black America have to lose? See, when I came to the White House, I told you The only choices that Black America has is to either vote left or to vote even further left. Look at the system that you are currently fighting. If you can't/don't, either one, if you can't or won't or don't acknowledge that system has been fighting against Black America for nearly a century now, Black America has everything to lose, because we will remain under this progressive system. What we call systemic racism will stay in place. We have everything to lose, because everything you're currently complaining about now that is so detrimental to our country, these are the things that we have been dealing with for decades. Now, last go around, the stated GOP goal for the Black vote was a few percentage points around the edges. And when you lost, your Black faces patted themselves on the back because, see, they met their goal. They got those percentage points around the edges. It doesn't really matter if you win or lose as long as they meet their marks. Low criteria, low burden to meet. They were successful, even if you weren't. If your Black faces don't believe in you, if they don't believe in conservatism, if they don't believe in the fight that is on the line right now, and understand that we are fighting for that long-term ego boost of generational ideological change that alters the trajectory of America for decades to come, then you probably should stop surrounding yourself with those people. See, those people are uninspired, detached grifters. And what did they get you last time? Another one, an understaffed community center run by untrained activists with no ability to control messaging or the boots on the ground operation of actual outreach. That is a waste of money designed to say that you are doing something when you're actually accomplishing nothing, while people who don't really care about your best interests are paying their friends. If you're going to spend the money anyway, which I'm assuming you're going to spend the money anyway, hire Kevin Daniels. He led the Black outreach for the RNC during 2020. That means he has experience. You're not starting from zero. He has connections already with people that are on the ground in these communities, and a game plan to actually be effective with measurable results. So you might want to try going with experience on actually doing the job, not people that say nice shit. Just saying. Stop using the culture and act like you actually understand it, okay? Black men were and are willing to give you a chance because of your attachment to capitalism. Their money matters to them. So that means the economy, inflation, interest rates, those things are of high importance. The Black culture didn't become a multi-trillion-dollar worldwide industry because it doesn't understand the basic of economics. It understands it very well. It talks that language. Speak to them in that language. Now, if you couple your ego of economics with the shit you've learned the hard way about systemic racism, aka progressivism, and how it operates, all you need to do is add one other single factor. The acknowledgement that none of the problems that affect the Black community can be solved at the federal level. If you are going to stay true to your word on building voluntary association with the Black community, it will require reshaping the Republican Party to fight for every district at every level. A large portion of Black America doesn't vote. This is why Democrats are more worried about voter depression than they are about voter suppression. These Black Americans don't believe that anything will change because of their vote. And they are right. If the Republican Party does not show up and mount an actual challenge to the progressive crazies at the local level, nothing will change in Black America. You need the numbers to swell your base, and Black America needs the progressive boot off of our necks. Acknowledge systemic racism, call it by its name, progressivism, and state the fight clearly. This is a battle for America. We are not looking to tie. We are looking for complete domination. See, Black people, we like a message about domination. You don't want Black people running away from their communities. You want Black America to agree that their communities are worth saving. You want them to stay and fight. You want them to fight against gentrification. You want them to fight against an overly burdensome regulation, taxation, and legislation force. You want the police to stop being used as a taxation force. You need them on the ground to fight to make these things happen. You don't want Black people running away. You want them to take over. And you want them to know that help is on the way. When we say we are going to pull progressivism out of our country by its roots, those roots run right through the local level. And no root is safe.